The size of our human bodies, and to some extent our brains as well, changed due to climate change. This is by University of Cambridge. The interdisciplinary team of researchers led by the Universities of Cambridge and Tübingen gathered measurements of body and brain size for over 300 fossils from the genus Homo sapiens found across the globe. And by combining the data with a reconstruction of the world's regional climates over the last million years, they've pinpointed the specific climate experienced by each fossil when it was a living human. The study reveals that the average body size of humans has fluctuated significantly over the last million years, with larger bodies evolving in colder regions. Larger size is thought to act as a buffer against colder temperatures. Less heat is lost from the body when its mass is large relative to its surface area. The results are published in the journal Nature Communications. Our species, Homo sapiens, emerged around 300,000 years ago in Africa, and the genus Homo existed for much longer and includes the Neanderthals and other extinct related species such as Homo habilis and Homo erectus. The defining trait of the evolution of our genus is a trend of increasing body and brain size. Compared to earlier species such as Homo habilis, we are 50% heavier and our brains are 3 times larger, but the drivers behind such changes remain highly debated. Our study indicates that climate, particularly temperature, has been the main driver of changes in body size for the past million years, said Professor Andrea Manica. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. He's a researcher at the University of Cambridge Department of Zoology who led the study. He said, "We can see from people living today that those in warmer climates tend to be smaller and those living in colder climates tend to be bigger. We now know that the same climatic influence have been at work for the last million years." Well, let me say this though. Those at the colder climates have more rain. They have more grass and water. And since I visited Scotland once, and I saw that the chickens were as big as turkeys, and the sheep were almost as big as calves and cows, and the cows were as big as horses. It's because they were munching on beautiful, clean, green grass all day long, and they had plenty of clean water to drink. So I don't think it has to do with climate. I think it has to do, that's my personal observation, it also has to do with water and food for the animals. When you're in a hot climate, of course they don't have water, they have droughts, and they have a problem getting their water, and when they do it's basically not drinkable. And of course the droughts, of course, that means you have less food for the animals. Anyway, going back to this, he says, "We can see from people living today in those warmer climates, they tend to be smaller, those living in colder climates tend to be bigger. We now know that the same climatic influences have been at work for at least 1 million years." Again, he doesn't take into consideration here the hot climates and the droughts, okay? Now, the research, because I also used to live in Cyprus, we had no water, we had no rain, the clouds disappear for like 6 to 8 months of the year, and you can't even grow a garden, not even geraniums, which don't need that much water. Everything is dry. So, it's a problem. So here, going back to the article, the researchers also looked at the effect of the environmental factors on brain size in the genus Homo, but correlations were generally weak. Brain size tended to be larger when Homo was living in habitats with less vegetation, like open steppes and grasslands, but also in ecologically more stable areas. In combination with archaeological data, the results suggest that people living in these habitats hunted large animals as food and complex tasks that might have driven the evolution of larger brains. Dr. Manuel Will, and this is some of his images here, University of Tübingen, Germany, he said, "We found that different factors determines brain size and body size. They're not under the same evolutionary pressures. The environment has a much greater influence on our body size than our brain size. He says there is an indirect environmental influence on brain size in more stable and open areas. The amounts of nutrients gained from the environment had to be sufficient to allow for the maintenance and growth of our large and particularly energy-demanding brains. This research also suggests that non-environmental factors were more important for driving large brains in climate, prime candidates being the added cognitive challenges of increasingly complex social lives, more diverse diets, and more sophisticated technology. The researchers say there's good evidence that human body and brain size continue to evolve. The human physique is still adapting to different temperatures, with an on average larger bodied people living in colder climates today. Brain size in our species appears to have been shrinking since the beginning of the Holocene around 11,650 years ago. The increased dependence on technology, such as an outsourcing of complex tasks to computers, may cause brains to shrink even more over the next few thousand years. Manica said, "It's fun to speculate about what will happen to our body and brain sizes in the future, but we should be careful not to extrapolate too much based on the last million years because so many factors can change." And this was from the University of Cambridge on phys.org. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support.